11th of November. A welcome also to Councillor Gary Marsh, the leader of the Conservative group, and to Councillor Jenny Edwards, who's the leader of the Green group. Look forward to your comments as we get into the meeting. First item on the agenda is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. We have none. Second item, to receive apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Ian Gibson, who I understand has a medical appointment. Third item, to be agreed by general affirmation the minutes and exempt minutes of the previous meeting held on the 16th of September 2024. Can I take those as agreed? Agreed, thank you, they're agreed. Item number 4, to consider any items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none, which then takes us on to agenda item number 5, Mid-Sussex Parking Strategy. And before I go to Simon Hughes, I invite Councillor Marsh and then Councillor Edwards if they have any comments.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, can't say we totally agree with this, but it's the best of the deal that we're going to get. But what I do and really quite pleased about is the resident permit scheme in the Queensway car park coming in. That is very welcome to the people of East Grinstead, but I shall listen to your debate with keen ears, as they say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Sorry, I'm sure I would have some comments, but I'm just quite correct myself. Apologies for that. Yes, obviously, I understand the reasoning behind the parking charges, so yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I now go to Simon Hughes.
Thank you, Chairman. The report before you summarises in response to the formal consultation that we issued in October. The consultation is concerned with the implementation of Sunday bank holiday and evening charges, a residents' overnight parking permit in Queensway car park, and also the report sets out a series of business cases that we are developing concerning investment in car parks. The proposals are set out in paragraphs 25 to 32, and the responses to the consultation are set out in paragraphs 36 to 38 and Appendix 1. Financial implications are detailed in paragraphs 54 to 60. As Cabinet will know, this includes increasing tariffs, but as you will know, parking is far more than just tariffs and what is charged for parking. So civil parking enforcement in respect of irresponsible parking is by far the largest contacts that we have with our local communities. The driver for our strategy is to enable us to look at the whole of the service. So that includes how people use car parks, how they support local communities, whether they're in towns or villages, how car parks also support activities in green spaces, but also how our civil enforcement officers can work with communities to address inconsiderate and illegal parking that can be such a blight on our communities. The report covers when investment is required. So examples of those include the council developing business case for the Queensway car park, where our data shows that that is extremely busy during key shopping times. So one of the things we are developing, and some of the tariffs enable us to do, is to develop that business case to look at opportunities to address that issue for the benefit of that town. Similarly, we're planning to invest in technology, and that will enable us to be more efficient in our parking service, and that will enable, in turn, our civil enforcement officers to spend more time within addressing those issues within our local communities. I think that's all I have to say on the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I'll go first of all to Councillor Hobbs as the portfolio holder.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Simon, for the report. If we go back 4 years, on Wednesday the 9th of December 2020, under the previous administration, the full council met online, as this was in the throes of COVID, the first year of COVID. Item 10 in that meeting was the parking strategy and action plan for 2020 to 2030. The strategy was born out of a cross-party working group, and when it came to the vote, 44 councillors from across the whole of the chamber voted for the adoption and implementation of that strategy and action plan, and it was passed. There were only 3 who voted against it. So we roll forward to 2023 last year, and the strategy had not been actioned. Car park volumes had recovered, and this cabinet proposed a budget that was approved by full council in February 2024 that started to deliver the strategy. That work is clear: raise funds from our car parks in order to A, ensure that they pay their way. Business rates, maintenance, cleaning, cash collection, servicing, all these costs continue to increase. B, fund the additional enforcement resource on our streets that residents are desperate to see. As Simon Hughes referred in the report, there are nearly 500 contacts in the first 6 months of this year, by far the biggest reason for people to contact the council. Drivers who spend hours abusing single yellow line parking, drivers who park dangerously outside schools, the list goes on, because we simply don't have enough wardens to be everywhere. And C, fund business cases to look at making access to our car parks spaces easier. And we have some exciting plans in this area for 2025 budget, and to review capacity improvement opportunities at Queensway Car Park in East Grinstead. Of course, no one likes to increase charges, but increasing charges is necessary. Charges implemented as part of the council's budget early this year have not impacted on the number of visitors to our council car parks. Visitor numbers are up, which shows clearly what we already knew, that the price of a car park is not the only factor in why residents choose to park in our towns. The report that is now in front of us is shaped following 2 rounds of public consultation, amended following round 1 to include a new residence scheme in East Grinstead. I repeat, no one likes to increase charges, but these are necessary for us to be able to continue to fund and improve our parking offer. Work on the business cases is nearing completion and will feature investment plans to be considered as part of the council's 25-26 budget. The recruitment of additional enforcement officers will commence in due course. I propose that we now support the implementation of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hobbs. Can I now go to Councillor Hicks, who I think is going to second the recommendations?
Thank you, Chairman.
You are now.
Right. Sorry. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendation. I think the proposals, as has been already stated, the proposals are in line with the parking strategy previously agreed by the council. We've taken into account the consultation that's been received and the specific feedback about parking overnight at the Queensway car parking in East Grinstead, as well as reducing the proposed Sunday fees. As Councillor Hobbs has already stated, there's no evidence the increase in fees earlier in the years led to overall drop in car park users. And we aim to be fair and reasonable in how we manage our car parks, which therefore means there's a case for charging all users, not just those who park during the week or on Saturdays. And at the same time, this council faces a projected deficit next year of £1.5 million. So it's only reasonable that users of our car parks contribute towards meeting the costs of providing parking and towards the investment programme that we have planned and the cost of civil enforcement. The revised proposals are estimated to bring in additional income of £245,000, a not insubstantial sum, which will be an important component of being able to balance next year's budget, and therefore I fully support the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Anne-Marie Cook, do you have any comments?
I don't have anything further to add. I'd just like to say that I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Just a few comments for me, and picking up on Councillor Hicks's point, and a rhetorical question is, how do we fairly apportion the charges for car park usage in a modern world where, you know, we don't, for example, just shop Monday to Saturday during the day. People choose when it is convenient for them to shop, and that might be in an evening, and that might be on a Sunday. So ensuring that you don't put all of the burden of the cost of parking onto one segment of your community means that you have to look at, if this is your choice, you have to look at widening the range of tariffs. And I know some people argue that it's cost of living that's driving people to shop on a Sunday, and that may be the case for a very, very small proportion. But if you wander around our car parks on a Sunday, you see a wide mix of users, many of whom are not, are driving in cars of high value. So it is about what is convenient for them, and so this strategy does mean that we can fairly apportion the cost. You remember we started out back when the budget was set with a focus on how the tariff changes gets us to a balanced budget. And I think if we made a mistake at that time was not raising up into greater focus what we're doing at this cabinet meeting, and indeed in the previous cabinet meeting, which is to demonstrate that there is a linkage between the income that we generate from car parking and how we can invest in our parking service across the district, which, as Simon Hughes rightly points out, and my colleagues have rightly pointed out, it's not just about our own car parks and managing off-street parking. We manage enforcement for the county, and I'm sure, like everyone, we all get casework from residents who are complaining about cars parking on pavements, across road junctions, blocking schools, blocking driveways, etc., etc. So our technology investment helps to release human resource for better enforcement across the district, and that has to be paid for. And our technology also means that we can provide a better parking experience for people who are coming to town. I'll give you an example. If you go to Horsham, for example, or Crawley, and you arrive at a car park, you park your car, you wander off, and you pay when you leave, and that means, as the consumer, you're not tied to the rate or the time that you've paid for in the first instance. So in terms of encouraging dwell time, technology is a way to do that. So it's a huge balancing act that we have to adopt as an authority in terms of managing our finances, and this is one way that we do it, but also providing the investment that we need to put in to our car parking and our parking services across the district. And that's why we do that. And I do want to flag up, because we obviously, as a council, have choices about, how we support the budget. And I'll refer to it again when we get to the agenda item, but it's worth noting that because of the budget strategy that we've adopted, we're able, when we get to agenda item number 6, we're able to recommend setting up a £900,000 reserve to support the resourcing we need to bring forward the redevelopment of the Martlets Shopping Centre. And we're able to do that because we are fixing, as an authority, our run rate revenues as an organisation. Because we all know, regardless of party, we all know that we cannot rely on a windfall from Treasury management forever. They are one-offs, and we have to fix the top line revenue to ensure that we can deliver on all of the services that we need to deliver and the new burdens that we will need to provide for over time, not just in any one year. So, yes, no one likes anything to increase in cost, but in terms of the investment that this is helping to provide in the district, this is a very reasonable solution for us as an authority, and is not a particularly high burden for our residents. So I support the recommendations. If there are no more comments, I suggest we go to a vote. And that is carried unanimously. Which takes us now on to agenda item 6, Budget Management 24-25. And before I go to Louise, I'll invite firstly Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Marsh, whether you have any comments. Councillor Edwards.
Only to say, noted in the remarks that you just made, Councillor Eggleston, about the interest rates and differences that will be there. So I read the summary and agreed with what was there. I mean, I was encouraged by the clarity of it.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. This is nothing I've never seen before, so I've seen this many, many times. It is what it is. Thankfully, the Treasury management is doing what it's doing, but as with the interest rates allegedly coming down, obviously with that comes our income. But I can't ask a question of what happened before because I would because we're not allowed to. But I would like to say that car parking income is used for car parking purposes, not to meet a deficit across the budget, which was your deputy leader just said. So I don't think that was quite right. But as I couldn't pick it up at the time because I'm not allowed to, but I've taken the opportunity to be a little lateral on this bit. So I do understand that it means we don't have to invest there because that's where the money's coming from. But yeah, I don't think there's much more I can say on that really because it's not that bad as it happens. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I go to Simon Hughes, I'm just going to come back on that point. So Section 55 of the Road Traffic Regulation Act allows you to carry forward surpluses on parking and use them for a project at a future date. So you can put your surplus income effectively into your general reserve until you want to use it. There's quite clearly set out criteria for how you can apply monies in the account. I'm aware of that, Chairman. Thank you. I shall now go to Simon Hughes. Oh, sorry, I can go to Louise Duffield. I do apologise.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So hopefully the report is clear and self-explanatory and sets out the position that we find ourselves in. And you are correct that following the Council's decision in September to approve the reserve for the Martlets, we're now able to set that up based on healthy Treasury management returns. Beyond that, I think it's quite clear that there's a short underspend offset by pension strain that's considered centrally, Beyond that, everything else is on track, and we've done the work to, which we continuously do, to look at the capital programme and when that money will be released so that we can make the most efficient investment decisions that we can. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I shall go to the portfolio holder, Councillor Simon Hicks, to comment first and move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm pleased to endorse this report. It's reassuring expenditure remains on track and indeed will be below budget other than for the provision for additional pension costs. And that itself, I hope, can be revised downwards if these can be allocated more in line with actual scheme expenditure. I note the utilisation of Treasury income, both to provide for the net overspend and in line with the original budget to support baseline revenue expenditure. But also to fund the costs relating to establishing and managing the joint venture has been mentioned. And clearly that's unsustainable if interest rates do reduce in terms of managing, utilising that Treasury income substantially for both in terms of base revenue expenditure and additional items. The capital programme remains on course and within budget, and noting the two largest items in the programme, the Centre for Outdoor Sports and the temporary accommodation, both within budget, so that's good. And therefore, the £500,000 contingency funding we provided at the start of the year, it has been unallocated. I note the rephasing of part of the capital budget. This reflects about a fifth of what was an ambitious original budget, and therefore I see no cause for concern in that change. As highlighted in the report, the additions to the capital expenditure programme are backed up by either additional income or utilising specific reserves. And I particularly note the 2.4 million costs relating to set-up and mobilisation of the simpler recycling requirements. And yes, a government grant has funded less than half of the current set-up costs, and there's no indication of any contribution towards ongoing revenue expenditure, of which the current budget includes 900,000. This is therefore one of the contributing factors to the £1.5 million deficit we've been talking about, forecast for next year, and the reason why we're having to make hard choices, such as around parking fees, to enable the council to work towards a balanced budget. I therefore commend the report and thank officers for the sound financial management that is highlighted in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Does anybody? I'm proposing to second the recommendations. Does Councillor Hobbs or okay, Anne-Marie Cook? Okay, not a lot to add. Obviously, interest rates have fallen 0.5%, so at some point, our interest on deposits will fall. Also, our interest is affected by, monies that we transfer into capital assets. So, for example, the Centre for Outdoor Sports is an £8 million facility, and that capital is being deployed at the moment. So the exceptional income has been very, very helpful for the last maybe 2.5 years, but I think we all accept that that's not going to go on forever, and we have to build in to our future budget making process, the robustness to ensure that we can still provide the services for our community and also invest in other activities like simpler recycling, like our parking strategy, and like the redevelopment of the Martlet shopping centre, which we probably don't say enough about what is going on in terms of officer time and support for this particular project, and the extent of the human resource that the authority has put into that project already, and the cost of that. And it is really prudent that we set aside the £900,000 so that we can continue to properly resource the redevelopment of the Martlet Shopping Centre in Burgess Hill as we get to that point, where we believe it's about to happen, and hopefully by the time we get to the budget, we'll have some more things to say on that. The report identifies the pressures that are there. I know it's very backward looking, but we know that we're getting to the point in our cycle where we're looking at the budget that we will set for the next financial year. And one element of that, knowing that we've got a £1.5 million structural deficit, is how we deploy Treasury management income to ensure we fill the gap. Obviously, we're still waiting for the government to make some announcements around what they may or may not allow us to do, and that will determine whether we have more or indeed even less freedom for movement than we've probably had for the last decade, I would hasten to suggest. But the good news is that the position we're in now is, to quote Councillor Marsh, it is what it is. And we work in the real world, and the officers work extraordinarily hard to ensure that the council's finances are in a good shape, and they will continue to be in a good shape going forward. So I'm happy to second these recommendations. Let's go to a vote. And that is carried unanimously, which now leads us to agenda item 7, disposal of the development land at Hammonds Ridge. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm actually pleased to see this, and I really commend the officers to doing this. I mean, I started this process, God knows how long ago, and should we say they've done exceptionally well to work with weights, because they weren't very accommodating in getting rid of the Covenant, which was on there, but now they seem to have, so it'll be quite a good windfall for us, and if we could use it for 12 flats, brilliant. So I really got to commend the officers' work on this one, because I'm really pleased that we've finally seen some light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't familiar with this issue until seeing this agenda item, but yes, it seemed a model of clarity and common sense, so thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. I now go to Simon Hughes.
Thank you, Chairman. As set out in the report, this seeks approval to dispose of this vacant site that we've held since 2000. Recommendations are set out in 2.122, and I draw your attention to paragraphs 3 and 4, particularly as you'll be aware, the Sites DPD allocation. The Sites DPD allocates this site, so the principle of development has been established on this site, and it can provide much-needed homes.
Thank you. So there is, as members know, agenda item 8, a proposal to take this into a closed session to consider the exempt annex, which I am proposing that we do. But before we do that, I'd like to go to Councillor Hobbs, portfolio holder, whether he wants to make any comments in the open agenda.
Thank you. At times of financial challenge within the council, it's important that we continue to look at all of our assets and make sure that they are returning us good value. And where we have assets such as this, where it's returning us no value and can be used for a most practical purpose, i.e. for delivering new homes, then it makes sense that we continue those searches for those spaces and deal with them appropriately. So I'm very much in favour of this proposal.
Thank you. And Councillor Hicks, do you want to say anything before we go to exempt?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I echo Councillor Hobbs' remarks and pleased that we're looking forward to resolve this, so fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the only comment I'd make is that it is an allocated site in the site allocation DPD. So when planning comes forward, it's appreciate it's only going to be 12 units, but it will help with our 5-year land supply. So I'm now going to propose under agenda item 8 to consider whether to exclude the present public from the meeting during consideration of the following items in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the said act. Do I need a second for that? So I'm proposing that if we could just approve. And that's approved, so we will go into exempt. Welcome back, everyone. So, having properly discussed and considered the information contained in the exempt annex, I now wish to invite members to vote on the recommendations as proposed by Councillor Hobbs and seconded by Councillor Hicks. And that's carried unanimously. And that brings us to the end of the meeting of this Cabinet. Thank you very much for your kind attendance, everyone.
Thank you.
That was easy.
Now, I assume, are we going to